welcome back to the On the Slab Horror Show, the show that we bring to you each and every Friday night. Why do we do this on a Friday night? Because Friday night is our night. And it looks like we have a semi-full house tonight, but there's a few unfamiliar faces there, but there's one ridiculously familiar face in the corner there. Welcome back to our resident on the slab member, Tombstone. Ted, how are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm just, as usual, just mooching around the On the Slab premises, jumping in whenever is needed, especially when it comes to a werewolf film. They're big for me. Don't get too
We're
many.
all in.
Yeah, we don't tend to get too many good ones. There's been a lot of very poor werewolf films, but we've been lucky so far this year to have two good ones. So maybe we'll get another one.
One of mine is number 2 on my list for the year. So
yeah, I think Viking Wolf is up there for me.
And then, as we see, there's two fine gentlemen down below us here. Well, on my screen they're below us. I don't know where they are in yours.
They are below us.
Yeah, I have the director of the said werewolf movie that Ted's talking about there, Wolf Hollow, in Mr. Mark Cantu. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you today?
Not too bad. We appreciate you taking the time today to come on. Tell me where they are.
Well, I appreciate you staying up this late because I know the time difference is all wonky. So,
God bless the old time zone difference.
I know.
And we have one of the main stars of Wolf Hollow in Bart himself. How are you, Brian?
Doing very well. Happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
Thanks again to yourself as well for taking the time out of your day to come on. If you caught in the intro where I said Friday night's horror night, we'll normally run through for guests from the States. We used to have a channel called, we still have a channel called, but it doesn't do it anymore. On a Friday night at 10 p.m. when we released this episode, at 10 p.m. on a Friday night, they used to play all the classic horror movies just after the watershed. You get them for free to air TV. It was great.
Nice.
The likes of Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Friday the 13th, House, all the good ones. All the good ones. So we kind of stuck to that to put this time out around then. So,
Good job, yeah.
We might as well jump straight into it here. Wolf Hollow, Mark, where did it come from?
It came from it definitely came from a love, and I think it's pretty similar to what you're talking about right now. I'm a child of the 80s, so a lot of my first impressions are, of horror movies are from that era. So I love practical effects. And again, right around the time I was 4 or 5 years old, which is extraordinarily impressionable, I saw American Werewolf in London, saw The Howling. So those movies definitely left a big imprint on me. So after Ceponis and I did another 80s slasher movie that we had just done before this, which was called Massacre Academy, I was kind of hemming and hawing about what do I want to do? What's the next step for me? And then I just kind of reached back into my brain and said, what do I love? What gets me kind of excited? And werewolves was the first thing that really popped into my head. And I was like, you know what? I think I can do something really good with a werewolf story. And it took us about a year to kind of get it shaped and get it sanded and planed and, kind of exactly where we wanted it. But like I said, I think we delivered on a pretty good little fun werewolf movie.
Absolutely. So obviously werewolves, as you mentioned, probably the biggest name in werewolves up until 2002 happened in American Werewolf. There, obviously John Landis and Rick Baker, obviously probably the best transformation scene you'll ever see, or had ever seen for a while. Yeah. No, I will say the movie we mentioned earlier on at the start there in Viking Wolf has an absolutely unbelievable transformation scene.
Okay. I
don't know whether you've had the chance to see it yet. It's on Netflix.
I hadn't even heard the name, but it'll definitely go on my list. Yeah, for sure.
I think it's a Norwegian. Yeah. Is it Norwegian? I think it's not Norwegian.
It's definitely Scandinavian of some kind.
It's a Scandinavian film, so it's not in English. I think you can watch it in English, but I don't like that with other films.
Yeah.
I'd rather just subtitle it because it just never seems to sync up all that well. I find when you dub it, like, it just doesn't work.
I think you lose the emotional impact as well. Sometimes when it's dubbed, I'm just like, they don't have the right tone that the actors are going for. And I'd rather listen to the poetry, even though I don't understand the language. I'd rather listen to it that way and just kind of read, whatever's going on. So.
Oh yeah, I'm the same, 100%. Just stick the subtitles on. I don't get this idea of it distracts from the film, because after about 8 seconds of reading subtitles, it's just in your brain to do it. You don't even realize you're doing it anymore.
Well, and I think it's funny because we had kind of a similar issue towards the end of the movie for Wolf Hollow. We're in such an age right now with cell phones and things are on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. People are so used to reading stuff on the screen anyway now that it just kind of become a non-issue. And I'm just like, yeah, it's not a big deal. Like, just put text up there, and people are able to kind of go through that, and it's not it's not anything to hold you back from enjoying a movie anymore. So.
I mean, like, even when you look at it, the likes of Star Wars and stuff, obviously the opening scene, the famous, infamous text running along that everyone loved. I mean, it's been done for so long in films now. Could you imagine watching, say, Apocalypse, English accent, or an English comment or English dubbing on it? It just wouldn't make any sense. Like, you just put it on. Like, I put on Viking Wolf, and I was watching the first 5 minutes. This doesn't sound right here. And I was this back to the but as it says, like, it's got a great thing. And werewolf movies, for other people and any fans of werewolf movies, we haven't had very many good ones.
Right.
It's a shame, really, because I'd say we haven't talked quite extensively about it for years. There's probably 7 or 8 good ones.
Yeah.
3 or 4 great ones, maybe 2 or 3 maybe amazing ones.
Yeah.
But I'm always partial to watching werewolf movies, though, always. So I seen this started to do around me. It was probably 5-6 months ago. It popped up. Someone put something up about Wolf Hollow, and I was like, interesting. New werewolf movie. And everything went quiet, and then it started to pick up again. And then obviously we connected on Instagram.
Right.
And I was like, ooh, werewolf movie. Absolutely. It seems to be a lot of them now. Like, you've got Wolf. I've seen another one called Wolf Manor. And they're going for the. But there seems to be a hype, and obviously I have a lot of friends on Facebook that are from the States that are actors and directors and stuff, and there's a lot of talk going around about your one.
Well, we definitely appreciate that. Yeah.
So I was sitting reading, and I'm gonna be like, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where there's not a lot in the market anyway in terms of representation. One, of just werewolf movies to begin with. But I think we hit, like, just at the right time, where there is a lot of werewolf movies that are kind of being made at the same time. All of a sudden, we all kind of like packed into the market, which is great. I'm like, it's so much like different variety, because there wasn't a lot of selection for a long time. But now, like I said, I think the horror industry, and I think every industry kind of in general, we all kind of go through waves and kind of ebbs and flows of things. Case in point, like when we did Massacre Academy right before this, there was kind of this wave of genre slasher movies as well. So we were kind of on the back end of that, even though my ideas tend to kind of, I get my ideas and I go, hey, wouldn't it be great if this? And then 2 years later, that becomes a trend. And I'm like, so I'm kind of within that rhythm of, how things kind of turn out. So it was nice to see we were doing a werewolf movie, and then somebody else was doing one, and somebody else was. So it was nice to kind of see things getting refined, and I feel like it only helps the genre, instead of kind of just doing the same, 2 or 3 stories every once in a while. Everybody else has a different story now. So.
Absolutely. Like, it seems to go that way, and we, as I said, myself, Ted, Ian, and Carl have all said it. It comes in waves of obviously
Yep.
sort of the late 2000s seem to be all paranormal activity, all the haunting movies, possession
Right.
movies. Prior to that, we had say the supernatural slashers like Jeepers Creepers. You had things like that. The last great, and in my opinion, the best werewolf movie came out in 2002 with I don't know whether you've had the chance to check that one out.
No, I don't think I have.
You made a werewolf for shame.
So
Well,
wait,
to be fair, Dog Soldiers is it's an English film, so it didn't translate exceptionally well to Americans because a lot of the way they
Humor.
speak and the humor that the boys use to each other as they're talking to each other was a very like English kind of banter and joking, so it didn't translate great into the States back in 2002, whereas I think that's starting to translate over to the States now, where there's been more British actors moving over there and they've filled roles in more Hollywood films and stuff, so people have kind of gotten a bit more used to that. So I'd say a lot of people that did watch it, or decided they didn't want to watch it because it was all English and they didn't really get the humor at the start, I'd say if they went back and watched it now, they might kind of find a new love for it, I guess, because they kind of get the joking and stuff that's going on in it and why the lads are not nice to each other. Like, they're always just ripping the piss out of each other.
And so did you guys say Dog Soldiers?
Dog Soldiers, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then yes, I was like, because the connection for some reason, like I said, just kind of faded out like right when you started talking, and I was like, I think I heard the name. I was like, I couldn't quite place it, but yes, Dog Soldiers, yes, that's 1,000%. That was on our list. But yeah, Neil Marshall is probably one of my favorite horror directors between that and The Descent. I mean, those are great films.
Phenomenal.
But yeah, and that was one of the ones that specifically, probably right in my lead up to prepping Wolf, whether it was Dog Soldiers, Silver Bullet, and even to a certain extent, I don't know if you guys saw Howl, which was like, I think from maybe like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Those three, Werewolves Within was like another one that we watched, but those like four, I was like, I want to make sure we've got these on my radar, because Dog Soldiers, to me, you're absolutely right. Like, it was one of those that kind of set the bar of, we're going to try and do something a little bit different. We're going to treat the werewolves as it's a funny movie. I mean, it is funny all the way through, but the werewolves, that was probably some of the more threatening werewolves that I've ever seen.
The size of them, and I did notice that you guys had kind of gone with that, and I was going to ask, was that something that you had watched and seen, and we're like, completely. We don't want, because so there's a big debate on this channel between, well, there was, I think we've finally beaten them into submission, between myself, Greg, and one of the other co-hosts that can't be here, Carl King. Whoa, his favorite werewolf film is The American Werewolf in London.
American Werewolf,
right?
And he loves the fact that it's on all fours, that it's an actual wolf. And I was like, yeah, I do like that. But other than the transformation scene, it doesn't have a patch on Dog Soldiers for us. So a long-running thing we had was, every guest Greg had on, he would ask them, which do you prefer, Dog Soldiers or American Werewolf? And American Werewolf got like dumped on, like it got destroyed. Dog Soldiers destroyed it because other than that transformation
I think
scene,
overall it finished 17-12 or something.
It got destroyed.
And I will say this, like, Dog Soldiers, it for me is a better movie just because it's a lot more quickly paced. It's funnier. It's got actual scares. American Werewolf was groundbreaking for its time.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of John Landis's directing style. I always found it very flat, very kind of just, very sitcom-y. There's not a lot of dynamics in the lighting. Whereas you look at like Dog Soldiers and there's like shafts of light coming through things. And to me, it's a very like Tony Scott, Ridley Scott kind of looking movie where I'm like, it's got a bit more atmosphere. It's got a bit more going on. I'm not a huge fan of American Werewolf, but it is one of the ones that obviously you're like, it's a classic for a reason. You have to pay homage to it, but it's not like my favorite werewolf movie of all time, though. But yeah.
You said that there was a lot of werewolf films coming out kind of around this time, and that you've noticed that you're kind of always with or just at the tail end of a trend. Did that kind of play on your mind when you were shooting this? Were you kind of feeling that like a little bit rushed or anything to be like, let's try and get this out a bit before other people?
No. We never felt that. I think the only thing that, like, and Ceponis, you can correct me on this or kind of amend it if you want. It's one of those things where on our sets, the story always comes first. We're not really competing with anybody else. We always kind of worry about what works best in the context of the characters and the story. And honestly, I try to kind of keep my head down and not worry about what anybody else is doing, because at that point I could get completely sidetracked and like I said, Ceponis can answer to that too, is that I just kind of focus on what we're doing on any given story and on the day. So does that sound about right, Brian?
No, that's right. I know you were talking about the timing of it, but that was never a conversation that we had in terms of like, hey, we got to hurry up and get this out to the market because there's other things coming on. It was a good story that we had, and we had everything in place, and just we're gonna go shoot this on our time frame. And when it comes out, it comes out. So
yeah, no, it was very good. Like this, I wasn't saying that in terms of that I thought there was anything lacking or that it felt rushed or anything, but obviously if you're first to the table, first to the market, it's a big help. So when you found out there was a lot of other films coming out that were werewolf based, I was just wondering, did it play in your mind at all to be like, we could wait another day or two to shoot this scene, but like let's just get it done, because the quicker we get this done, the quicker we're out and we can be ahead of the pack, so to speak.
Good pun.
First of all, good pun. That was amazing.
Oh, it was intended. It was intended.
Yeah. No, honestly, like it never figures into my thinking. I just kind of look, honestly, like it's almost like a swimmer. Like I pop up every once in a while and I look around and make sure where we're at. And I saw that, I noticed it in the market and went, huh, cool, all right. And I just kept on going. Like it doesn't really, kind of derail anything that I've got in my head. So
I think the one thing about that though is it's kind of cool when you see other projects like that coming out. Werewolf, there hasn't been a lot of werewolf films of late or overall, and it's just nice to say, okay, we're on the right track with this, because obviously people are seeing something here that's an underserved market in terms of werewolves, and we've got something that's going to come out to the market soon. So I think that we looked at it from that perspective. It's like, hey, this is cool. Got other people doing stuff, werewolves, and bring a little attention to werewolves, which they just don't get their just. It's always vampires, zombies, slashers.
Right. The usual, the basics.
The basics.
Right. Yeah.
What I will say is, obviously, we've mentioned it quite a lot. The success that indie movies have achieved over the last sort of 6 to 10 months, 12 months, obviously off the back of Terrifier 2 and things like that, it can only help that Wolf Hollow is sort of an indie movie, because of the popularity that indie movies are experiencing at the minute, might kick this movie on to go higher, and then maybe kick Hollywood back into doing werewolf movies for fans as well.
That'd be amazing. Yeah.
Like it would be thing, like the indie scene has obviously ridiculously exploded off the back of Terrifier and stuff. So whatever you put out into the market now is obviously high on the list of a lot of people, like fans that wouldn't watch indie. So it's great to see when an indie movie does well, because obviously it benefits all other indie movies, which then benefits the genre.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Brian's got a lot more experience in terms of kind of being in the industry a little bit longer than I am. So maybe he can speak to some of that. But yeah, to me, honestly, it's one of those things where it's like everybody wins. As long as we're kind of calling attention to what we can do at our level, not to demean our budget or our cast and crew, but we don't have a $80 million budget. I wish we did, maybe we'll do that for the sequel. I don't know, Brian. What about you?
Sure.
If you get an 80 million quid sequel and don't fly me over to be in this movie, that's it.
I will
Done.
put you on a plane.
I already told him
immediately.
there's a role for you, Greg. So we're good. We got this covered. But I think.
I mean,
think
I don't even need makeup. I'm like the hairiest person ever made. Apart from
There you go.
my head.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
It's interesting about that, Mark. Just what you were saying is like, and Greg, like, with something like Terrifier 2, I think that the cool thing about indie, even because we don't have the budgets that a studio film does, that I think with indie films you can take a lot more risks. Since you want to try and get your film out there and make it known, you're going to do stuff that catches people's attention. You know, the studio films, they got to go through 30 layers of this. I need approval for this, and indie films like, yeah, screw it, shoot it. I don't care. We'll make it up as we go and throw it on the market and do something different and take a risk, because that's how you get noticed in this industry. You're not doing the same thing over and over again. So I think that's where we kind of have a leg up on that.
Yeah, Damien Leone certainly took that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, I completely agree with that, because I think there's a maneuverability, like what Ceponis is talking about. There's a maneuverability that we have at our level to go, you know what? And sometimes it's literally come down to that on a day where it's just me and Ceponis making a decision. So I think you wind up getting the purity of the idea, the purity of the creativity comes through, as opposed to being watered down by 10 people in a meeting going, well, this didn't really track well, and this didn't blah, 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 and blah. And the more money, that gets involved, the more problems, as, famous rappers say every once in a while, more problems. But it's one of those things where if you're at our level, we can make those decisions very quickly on set. And it winds up kind of speaking to an audience in a bit more of a linear way instead of being diluted, if that makes sense.
I think obviously Damien Leone set the tone with, obviously, Terrifier 1 was back in 2016, but anyone that's seen it, as soon as you say it to them, that scene, right?
Yeah, we all know
that
it.
Scene in Terrifier 1, right, does not happen if that's a Hollywood movie. Does not happen.
Agreed completely at that point, right? Yeah. And that's one of those things where it's the audacity of that. It's like, do we have the balls to actually go down that road? And if you've got 20 suits behind you, you may get that one powerful one that goes, I pull the strings here, you're not doing that scene, and that's a shame.
And I think that scene alone got it the cult following that when the second one was made, drew the people in. Then you talk about the second one having that scene, which was 100 times worse than the other one.
Yeah. Although, to be fair, like I wasn't like a huge fan of the second one. I thought it was longer than it probably needed to be. But I still saw the benefit in terms of our industry, in terms of how much impact it had. I mean, like, you can't deny the business end of it. But yeah, I think it's one of those things where, again, you don't get that unless you got either no studio kind of over your shoulder, or you've got a fearless producer that says, I'm willing to go to bat for you, to defend your decisions as a director, as a filmmaker. So I think you need a lot of that. And I think audiences respond to originality. I mean, you look at Barbie, you look at Oppenheimer, their box office, they're not existing intellectual property. They're not, anything. They're not a sequel. They are maybe a brand name in terms of Barbie, but beyond that, I think audiences are craving originality, and, who's more, original and kind of creative than indie filmmakers 9 times out of 10,
Absolutely. And we've mentioned Carl King-Woe there, our co-host. He fucking hates remakes and reboots. He fucking hates them. So for him to see anything that's new coming out, he's like, yep, okay. At least he'll go with it. Like, now I watch a stupid amount of indie movies.
Yeah.
Like, everyone goes on about Shudder and this, that, and the other. Now, I've been quite lucky in some conversations I've had with directors and stuff, that they've sent me pre-screeners of movies coming out, like yourself did.
Right.
So it's great. I get to see all this stuff before it comes out, so I'm getting the benefits of the podcast. But
Right.
I've found a lot more indie movies are in my top 10. So myself and Ted and a couple of others that we have on a different podcast do a list of all the 2023 movies that we've seen, and we'd have it in a rating system. And I think when I went through it, on my top 10, I have 5 indie movies in my top 10.
That's a great sign for the industry in general. I mean, that's the way it should be. You know, there's a lot more art going on than just kind of existing, you know, sequels and things like that. So
sorry, 4, and I have 6 in my top 15. 7 in my top 15.
That's
I,
still great. That's still fantastic.
I do agree with the points that both you, Mark, and Brian have made. It's with indie films, without having that Hollywood budget behind you and that Hollywood producer and executive and all of that stuff, it limits you in the sense of you don't have as much freedom to do whatever you want, in the sense of, well, I would love to do this, but I can't afford it. I don't have the money. And you're not going to shell out, you know, unless you're super rich, you're not going to shell out like $1 million. You're not going to be like, well, shell out $1 million for this because I have it lying around and it's all right. So
Mark looks like he has it.
Well, they both might have it. We don't know what their finances are like, and we're not asking. But the fact that most indie films wouldn't just have you know, an unlimited budget means that they have to be a bit more creative. So,
right.
For example, here doing Wolf Hollow, you decided to, and maybe it wouldn't have mattered whether you had an unlimited budget or not, but you decided to go away from the virtual effects of creating the wolf, like no CGI and stuff. You use more of a prosthetics and things like that, and it looked really, really good because of that, because it wasn't just superimpose it. And listen, sometimes CGI is amazing, sometimes superimposing stuff like that works really, really well, but if you don't have a huge budget, it doesn't, because you don't have the time to reshoot with the CGI.
Right.
It didn't work out the first time. But the other side of that coin is that you don't have someone behind you going, well, I do like that idea, but I just don't think it's marketable, or I think that might cause some offense, or this might happen and we don't want you to say that line, we want you to change it. And like one of the biggest examples of that is Fight Club, where
is it the abortion line?
Yeah, Helena Bonham Carter has her line, and they tell her, you're not saying that, and she goes, that's fine, I'll change the line, but whatever I say next has to go in. And they were like, yeah, well, it can't be any more offensive than that. And it was way worse. It was
way more offensive,
way more offensive, but now their hands were tied because she got them to agree contractually that she could say this. But that doesn't happen most of the time. So most of the time it's just, listen, you can't do that specific scene. It's too gory. We don't think the general public will like it. And because you don't have that, you can just, as you said, between the two of you just go, well, we think it'll work. And who do we answer to? Ourselves. So let's just stick it in there. If it does work, it works. If it doesn't, we'll learn for the next time and we won't do something like that. But like, these are obviously horror fans yourselves, so you have watched horror, and having watched it, you've grown up and you feel like, oh, I really liked that thing, but it doesn't get done all that often, so I can use that in my film. But it might always get shut down, and like whatever that idea might be, it might always get shut down by a big Hollywood studio. But you guys can use it with whatever freedom. And
I think at that
opposite side of the coin of being tied down to a budget, like you have more freedom in one way, but you don't have the freedom to just do whatever you want and just throw money at the problem until it goes away.
Well, I think like Ceponis was pretty comfortable throughout the shoot. I think he might have appreciated maybe like a digital double of a werewolf for some running scenes when he couldn't quite see, through the mouth of the suit.
Mark's like, hey, run that way through all those trees and over that cliff, and your eyes are like this big. Oh yeah, boom, tree,
full power.
Yeah, if you look down in those shots, like it's just his sneakers. So maybe we could have used, some of the CGI to like put his feet back in digitally. But little things like that, little fixes. But Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's one of those things. I mean, and Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, I don't think it would have made a difference if we had had the money we had on Wolf versus $1 million. We would have maybe had more blood and guts, but you know, maybe a bit more air conditioning would have helped. But that's about it, you know.
It was, I think, no, I think everything doing practical. First of all, I'm a big fan of doing things as much practical as you humanly can, because
all practical all the time.
it just the thing I always point to is like you look at like Star Wars with like Yoda, right? And the good three, Yoda's an actual physical thing on set, and then they
The good tree,
and it looks like
that's the new tree, then, yeah.
The original good three. Where Yoda's not a CGI,
the original trilogy, yeah.
You know, where he's actually a puppet on set.
Yeah. But
practical all the time.
For us, like I'll always refer back to certain movies when we talk about practical effects. Could you imagine, say, Tremors now as CGI?
No.
Like there's like there's certain movies that CGI does work. Like obviously we've seen the piss poor attempt in Jaws 3 of the CGI shark.
Yeah.
3D no less.
Huh?
3D,
Jaws 3D no less.
Yeah,
That's
3D.
it. Yeah, 3D.
Where the shark is literally just like,
yeah, it's like a piece of paper on it.
It's so bad.
Oh my God.
It's so bad. I hate that movie.
Yeah.
But like for me, like the first thing when when I sent the screener to Ted there, he says to me, he says, "What's it like?" And I says, "The wolf is class."
Yeah. No, the wolf is amazing, and again, a huge, monstrous being. Like I do like the idea of wolves being wolves as well. I think it works very well. Like Viking wolf, it's an actual wolf on all fours. But I love the idea of, you know, this big imposing creature, with, you know, it's like 7 or 8 foot tall. Like, how are you meant to overcome something like that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just
So
adds
Brian
to the fear.
Ceponis is 6'5". So Brian is already a tall guy.
Big guy.
And then you put those ears on him, and then you put, you know, everything else on there. I mean, it's scary. And then you're in the woods being chased by that. But going back to that, I think that was one of the conversations that we had about. We were glad that it wasn't just kind of a beast on all fours. It actually had a personality like a human being. But that was integral to kind of differentiating between the two, because you have like the Evie Wolf, you have the Bart Wolf, and Brian is playing both of them, but he's trying to make it 2 different distinct characters. So even then we were trying to approach it as kind of a character study, right, Brian?
Yeah, totally.
Well, I mean, it's been brought up obviously through science and stuff that wolves all have different sort of personalities in the pack. So did that play on your mind when doing the wolves? Obviously, if you're playing all 3 different people as a wolf, was there much thought to it that you're going to be sort of different behaved?
Yeah, there definitely was. Mark and I talked about this a lot. You know, not only is it you want to have the personality of the character and Bart and Evie translated into the wolf. So, you know, you have kind of a female character who's a lot more cunning, and when she decides to do her kill or whatever, it's quick and it's efficient. And whereas Bart's like a freight train, he just comes in and he's taking everything out with him. And but yeah, we wanted to make sure that there was a differentiating personality between both wolves, not just the fact that one was gray and one was brown, but that they acted differently, they moved differently, they responded to their kills differently, they killed it differently, if you will. So there was a lot of thought that went into that, and wanting to translate that. Even just one of the scenes and just how the fingers move. We have a shot at the beginning of the campfire where the fingers moving by the fire, and you know, just how Evie's moving the fingers versus Bart just coming in, and
that's just where he's on top of him, man.
Yeah, yeah. It's just how efficiently the fingers are moving, or things like, I mean, things like that. The attention to detail goes into everything for the personality of that particular wolf, and we wanted to make sure we captured that.
Now I'm gonna put a spoiler out because I've got to bring up some points that actually happen in the film. Now obviously the film will be out on August 8th.
August 8th, yeah.
So if you haven't
or
had a chance to watch it,
August 8th.
if you haven't had a chance to watch it yet, this is right. The spoilers are coming up here now, so
I mean, we've got this far into it and not giving a spoiler, so now we're gonna go all in.
yeah. Now we're talking
Should
about
I,
the.
should I
now
get
we're
off the
talking
call
about-
too if there's spoilers? Should I not
Yeah,
be
yeah.
here?
Nobody likes spoilers.
Yeah. So all right. So I'm gonna go. I'll talk to you later.
What happens?
All right.
Hercules wins. Right.
That's a
So
good
obviously,
Batman reference, by the way. That was great. So
if in the if in this movie has some great movie quotes in it from other movies and throws to a lot of other movies, right? Obviously the Arnie one-liners are just top drawer. And it's even better that it's not Arnie.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
No, your man Lucky was. He does a really good Arnie impression now, I have to say. Like, Arnie is a very strange one because he has possibly one of the most distinctive voices in the entire world. Maybe that's just because I've never heard. Maybe just because I don't know any other Austrians or anything. Like maybe it's that, and maybe they all sound like that. But he's the only one I've heard talk, so I just assume that that's what they all sound like. And he's so distinctive, and Steve just nails it the whole time through the film. Like,
yeah.
Well, it's so funny because Brandon is actually he's one of the fan club. Like he runs the website for Arnold Schwarzenegger, so he's got an automatic love for him automatically.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where, as I got to know Brandon, I knew that he would do that constantly. So I was like, I'm gonna pull this in, because I know you can do it, and we're gonna include that. But then on top of that, I think with Arnold Schwarzenegger, it's such a distinct voice, and it can go off the rails very quickly. Like I've heard some terrible Arnold Schwarzenegger impressions, but it's so ingrained in society. Is the moment you hear it done right, it sticks with you immediately. You're like, oh yeah, no, that's totally it right there. And Brandon is probably one of the best guys that I've ever heard do an Arnie impression and nail it every time so casually. Like he just carpet bombs it through a conversation. You're like, well, there you go. And that's half your movie right there. That's half of it.
I think
there was some good ones in there for me. Like obviously you didn't just go straight to the big quotes. You used Kindergarten Cop. You used Last Action Hero.
Yeah.
Some of the sort of lesser known movies.
There's some deep cuts in there. There's some deep cuts. Yeah. Yeah. To me, honestly, it's one of those things where it's like, I want people to be able to appreciate the movie. And again, when we talked privately, I was like, Wolf Hollow, the way it is to me, it's a fast food movie. It's a hamburger, it's cheeseburger, sloppy cheeseburger at 3 a.m. kind of movie. That's what it is. But within that, I want you to be able to go back to it and go, I didn't pick up that quote. And you go, holy crap, there's a bunch of little in-jokes just for me in here. It's like finding like the surprise fry in your bag at the end of the night and being like, holy crap, I didn't realize there was like 3 extra little bonus fries, To me, that's what those things are. And it's like, if you get it, you get it. If you don't get it, not a big deal, but
So myself and Ted were texting after he watched it, and he was like, so obviously there's quite a reference that picks up for him. Obviously is the Scream reference.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, towards the end.
Yeah. But I picked up on one that I thought, well, I don't know, I can't be for sure, but I texted Ted and he's like, no, we got to ask that on the chat. So this is your spoiler, right? So it is a horror movie. People do die, right? When Marla dies, right?
Right.
Is that a throw to Pulp Fiction?
No. So
Then
you're talking about when she gets shot in the head.
You blew it. You absolutely blew it.
You should just claim that it was going forward.
You just said yes.
Yeah. No,
You shot Marv in the face. You shot Marla in the face.
We should have used that. We should have fucking used that. So we shot Marla in the face. I would have loved to have snuck that one in. Unfortunately, that is not one. But there is one that I did think of. I was doing my commentary like months later, and it was, I would have loved to have snuck, like once everybody gets attacked and they get back to the RV, I would have loved Lucky Steve to have said, "We're back in the car again," as like a nod to Jurassic Park. And I was like, and I didn't think of it until I was doing the commentary, and I was like, fuck, I should have said that one too. I was like, So it was one of those that like they come in waves, and I'm like, yeah, should have used that one. But that one I should have shot Marla in the face. That would have been fucking amazing had I dropped that
Dude,
one in there.
Well,
you shot her right in the fucking face.
You could just lie and say that yes, you didn't use the line.
Yeah,
but,
totally.
The whole idea of her being shot in the face was a reference. Just lie. Just say, oh yeah.
Right. Because I think Ceponis came
yeah.
up with that. That was Brian's contribution to the script. Yeah.
If someone asked you if you were a god, you say
yes.
So Brian, I'm going to ask you the same question. You done it knowingly from Pulp Fiction. Just no one else. You were that far ahead of everyone. No one picked it up. Correct?
Yes. That is so true. You are absolutely 100% correct. Thank you for realizing that.
Mark, does that feel like a punch in the cervix for you?
Yes. Yes. Right in the cojones. It hurts.
Yeah.
Right in the fucking cervix.
Right.
No, I was going to
say.
It
worked.
I love the fact that you have those quotes in there. One, as you're watching it, as a viewer, you're like, oh, I get it. Oh, I get it. I get it. But the idea that these are all film students.
Real people.
No, well, they're all like film students, and these films exist in that world because obviously certain films, when you watch a film, doesn't exist in that timeline or film or whatever. But these films all do exist. But they're all meant to be, you know, big into film and acting and this, that, and the other.
Right.
So of course, what they've done is they've sat around and watched a shit ton of films, and anyone that's watched films and loves films, they just have these quotes that they just throw out when they're just speaking to friends, and they're all meant to be friends because they're all acting on a film together. So even if they're not close knit friends, as we've been told by a lot of other actors and guests that Greg's had on the show, when you're shooting a film, it kind of becomes a bit of a family because you're all just around each other so much. So these inside jokes and quoting lines of films at each other, that's a very natural thing to happen when you get a lot of people who like films together. So it makes sense that they're obviously doing this to each other.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, I mean, we're of that age. Our generation has definitely grown up that way. I know I did. And it was always kind of my way, even in college or, you know, in my 20s and 30s, is if I met new people, that's my way of gauging everybody. Like, how cool are you? Like, I'm going to throw out a casual quote, and if you don't get it, no skin off our teeth, and we're just going to move on. But it's a way of kind of gauging, like I said, can we be friends or not? And to me, it's one of those things that when you find that connection with people where everybody gets the quotes and everybody understands this is what's going on, it takes conversations to a different level. You can say things in a different way. The impact of something can mean something completely different if you use like an epic quote from a movie or something. So, but I will say there's one little Easter egg that nobody outside the movie is gonna know. Even some of the people on our team didn't quite know this one, but in the very beginning of the movie, when Benji and Timmy are in the car, and Timmy throws out the quote from Backdraft, he's like, you know, you go, we go. And Benji kind of turns around and says, is that a movie quote? Like, what are you talking about? Like, that sounds like you're talking like a movie quote. That's a quote from me and my wife. That's what she says to me all the time, because I talk so frequently in movie quotes. She can't tell. If I say something normally, she turns around and she's like, is that from something? Is that from an actual movie, or are you just saying normal sentences like a person? And I'm like, I don't know. Could be both. I don't know. And so
I might not have seen that movie yet, but it might happen.
Right. And so it's one of those ways, like, if I put the inflection on something, she always kind of starts questioning. She's like, are you quoting something right now, or are you just talking normally? And like I said, the conversation will usually kind of steer a certain way, but that was my nod. So there's so many movie quotes, but that's a nod to our real lives actually at that point. So
that's pretty cool, like little thing to get into a film
nice
as well,
touch.
you know?
I mean, you used to see it you see it, and obviously we used to watch pro wrestling. Wasn't it Big Show that used to come out and he'd be like this, and it used to be a sign to his wife and stuff.
Yeah, his wife was deaf or something, I
Right.
think it
Yeah.
was, and
But, like,
3 twists on his wrist was like, "I love you." So like he'd always come out and do it every single time.
so now every time she watches this movie, or if she does watch this movie, she'll know. And
Right.
she'd be like, was that for me? No, that was from
Oh,
the movie.
she completely knows now. Yeah, like our real life has actually become movie quotes now. So I'm like, so it's kind of come full circle. So, but yeah, like she knows, and that's my way of that's my little wristband tug to her. I'm just like, that's my way of saying I love you, and kind of keeping you in my art as well. So
Everything's coming up Millhouse.
The big thing is now when she asks you, is that a movie quote? You can hit her with the exact same response because hers is now a movie quote. You go, well, is that a movie quote? She's now stuck.
And I'll do the movie quote about her quoting.
Yeah.
Is that a movie quote? Is that?
Yeah, exactly.
I can never tell with you. Yeah, and
Now,
it's funny because the lines in the movie are verbatim what she's always telling me. She's like, I can never tell with you. It's the way you say it. It's like everything Benji says. That's basically my wife. Like that is exactly her. That's her transcript at that point. So.
Well, just before we finish up now, we'll move on to bits on the cast because I don't want to obviously give away everything in the film because otherwise people might not watch it. Now, I recommend going to watch it because it is good, start to finish, fun, entertaining. As I said to you off in private, is it perfect? No,
Nope.
not many movies are.
Yeah,
not many movies are. Jaws is almost one. And I mean,
that is true.
If you get online with Jaws, you're doing well.
I mean,
Jaws is my favorite movie. Yeah.
Most films you watch, if you watch it, you can find something wrong with it. If you want to find something wrong with a film, you'll find something wrong with a film. Like,
as I said to you, is it perfect? No. I loved it. It was fun, entertaining. The story wasn't too.
It wasn't convoluted or anything. It was a simple.
Yeah, that's the word.
It's a simple story, like.
Simple story, good kills.
I guess one of the questions I had is everyone in Wolf Hollow a wolf? Is that the idea? Because obviously the family are wolves, but then the shopkeeper is a wolf,
right?
And then I don't know who, but somebody in the police station was a wolf.
There's a few nods. Like I said, we tried to make sure that it was kind of like if they weren't an actual werewolf, they are very much in the know.
They were aware that everyone was,
They're aware of what's going on. Like even Mel, which is the guy that Ceponis kind of helps on the side of the road with the tire, and then he's in the hospital at the end. Even he kind of like Ceponis. I think we had a conversation with Brian, who's the other actor as well. Did that come up for you guys too on set? Because I think we had that conversation with him.
A little bit, but we just kind of just played it straight. I mean, it was at that point just
right.
I kind of could have took that as do you remember the original Blade?
Mm-hmm.
The way the vampires had little bitches that thought they were vampires. Could be like a little bitch werewolf.
Yeah, it could be. It was just I noticed that like obviously like sometimes you go just that a very specific family are all werewolves, and even if everyone knows about it, it's just that family. But then it does seem that there's other werewolves, like the shopkeeper. Then a werewolf attacks in the police. Well, a werewolf attacks in the police station, but we don't find out necessarily which werewolf it was, because it seems to get away. So it could have been one of the family that then came back because the son and the daughter aren't there, and then at the end
it's definitely Bart.
Well, no, it can't be Bart because Bart is up there hassling the movie
Bart,
people, so.
Bart's the kingpin. Bart do whatever he wants.
But it could have been some of the younger family that we see at the very end either. Like there's obviously a lot of people it could be, but I was just wondering, was it then a thing that everyone was actually a werewolf? Or was a wolf in Wolf Hollow? Like if you lived there, you were a wolf, and it was just kind of, don't mess with us. Like this is our town, and don't come in and try and buy land or force anyone off because we're all wolves. We'll just fucking kill you.
I'm gonna let Brian take that one from a werewolf's perspective because he played most of them. So
Well, it is called Wolf Hollow for a reason, but not everyone is.
You mean it's about snakes?
Wolf Hollow with gators is what we were shooting for,
Right.
but somehow the gators disappeared. They all ran off. I don't know where they went.
Something must have scared them.
Crazy. But yeah, not everyone's a wolf, but there are a lot of wolves floating around, and like we said, the ones that aren't werewolves know about the town's history, if you will.
Okay. Yeah.
I love how some of the cops, when they were talking, they were like, "It's of a hairy variety."
Yeah.
Right.
Genius. Obviously, the cast was exceptional in this. You really didn't go half-arsed with this one.
Oh no.
Obviously, you have two absolute legends of the horror in Little Larry and Felicity Rose.
Yeah.
But Hannah Fearman's in here. Angel Bradford, who's ridiculously talented and what seems to be ridiculously popular at this minute in time.
Oh yeah, yeah. And she literally came in and did like a day with us. But she's so amazing in even just that little bit at the very beginning. But yeah, we wanted to get her on for sure.
The very first time I noticed her in a movie was in I'm having a mind blank now. Night of the Axe.
I don't think I've seen that one. Yeah.
It's a slasher movie she's in from earlier. I seen it earlier on this year. Obviously you have Daniel John Kearney, who I seen in Late Check-Out. He's a good lad as well, from what everyone says. He's obviously a Mutilator too as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we've gotten so lucky with our cast. Everybody down the line, like I said, just even if they came in and did a day for us, like I said, it makes my job so much easier as a director, just to kind of go, I'm going to set up the camera and back out of the way, you guys do your thing. And even, I think out of our entire cast, I think Brian probably had the most time with Felissa. So their time, like I said, kind of establishing things really set the tone. I think we were maybe like a quarter of the way through the shoot by the time we got to their scenes, but like they set the tone immediately from the outset, right, Brian?
Yeah, it was great working with her. She's a sweetheart, absolute sweetheart, and so talented. So it's just makes it easy.
I mean, then we have this unknown actor called Brian Ceponis, who absolutely tanked it.
I would never work with that guy again. I tell you that right now.
That guy is such a prima donna.
He was terrible.
That guy is terrible.
I heard he has a bit of a temper.
Obviously,
a little bit. Yeah.
He gets hairy at times.
Yeah.
Why?
He's worked the struggle.
I was actually really impressed with your character as well. And I always tend to lean towards the bad guys in films. So I felt for you. You just wanted peace and quiet. You wanted to keep the woman happy. Keep the woman happy. She keeps you happy. She was giving out to you. You get pissed off. Shit happens.
You get my character. Now I didn't want to lose my property. You know, that's all I wanted.
Even if it was your dickhead brother.
Tell me about it. That guy. You know.
Yeah. Fuck that guy.
Real pain in the ass, that guy.
Gents, just before we go, right? Before we wrap up tonight, I'm gonna throw you out a couple of questions. It won't be about the movie. This is quick fire now, right? Well, I'll give you two of the question that we used to ask people in Dog Soldiers or American Werewolf.
I'm gonna go Dog Soldiers.
Yeah, agreed.
They get it.
Yeah,
see that
exactly.
cow? It's still going. No, we decided to end that battle and we took out a new battle. This one isn't really a battle because we're all on kind of the same side on this one, but we just wanted to see how guests score. So,
all right,
Jason or Michael?
Jason.
Brian, I'm gonna let you. What did you say?
Jason.
I'm gonna actually I'm gonna probably go Jason as well, just because Brian Ceponis'
Scumbag.
character in Massacre Academy, as much as he had the silhouette of Michael Myers because we had the jumpsuit and we had the white mask, the brutality of his kills was an homage to Jason. So like we tried to go hard Jason on those things. So
I mean,
And
I did.
I have a
So
little
I picked.
Jason with me right now, so he's on my
there you
desk.
go. See, that's it.
I gotta go with Jason. Sorry.
Debate is over.
I mean, I would have always been a Jason up until I watched the 2018 Halloween.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
that actually
Which
it was Ted that bugged the shit out of me until I watched it,
Yeah.
and I've now changed my pick. I absolutely loved the new trilogy of
Halloween.
Halloween. I know it gets a lot of stick off people, but I don't understand why. But like you have your Jason, I have mine.
Oh yeah, see, you're you're a little more permanent than my little guy here. I mean, he just he's a bobblehead guy. But I mean, I really
You can get that on your back, Ceponis. You can get that tattoo.
Oh, back tattoo of yeah.
A little Jason
No,
Voorhees
this
tramp
is-
stamp.
this-
I think we'll be all right.
This is the new battle for the next little while, and we'll see how this goes. So you're 2 up, Jason.
I think
Two
that's a
up.
good one. That's a good one.
Nice.
Right, give me your top 3 horror movies before we close out, and it can't include Wolf Hollow.
Ah, now forget it.
Yeah,
Or
I'd say
anything
we'll
else,
go-
or anything else you've directed or acted in. You can't just list them out and be like, let's just plug
Alright.
these. You can plug
Yeah.
those at the end, but you can't just
I
plug
was
them
gonna
as the
put-
best
okay.
films.
Honorable mention: Massacre Academy and Wolf
Yeah.
Hollow. That I'll leave it at that.
That's a given,
Top-
though. I would have given them.
Yeah.
Top 3 horror movies for me. Going in kind of reverse order, I would actually say The Thing, The Fly, and then Jaws.
Two of the 3 best remakes of any films ever.
Ever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, look at the
I would-
pooch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, don't look at it. Don't look at it. Don't touch it.
Oh, look at
No.
it. Turn the werewolf.
Yeah.
I'd have to get Jaws
They're,
on
they're
that.
three good picks. No, I mean there's 3, and that's close to my old heart. I'm a big creature feature guy. 3
I would
creature
mind
features in there.
3.
I would throw in Aliens on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
That is another great one. That's another fantastic one. So, Exorcist and Aliens are kind of just right there for me. But like, if you're talking about, like, if you have to make me choose right now, it's those 3 for today. Yeah.
I'm part of the don't really get the love for The Exorcist. I understand it was culturally important,
Significant. Yeah. Yeah.
but I just find it quite boring. And I made a very bold point on Facebook the other day where I said The Conjuring was better than The Exorcist.
I think
I can see that. Yeah.
you see,
It didn't go down well, but
I think The
Right.
Exorcist holds its place in time. It's very good for its time. The problem was that
Yeah.
they tried to do more Exorcist films, and
Yeah.
the unfortunate thing with an Exorcist film is that once you've seen one Exorcist film, they are all the exact same film, really, because you don't have
Right.
anywhere to go, because the whole idea of the exorcism is that the person is tied to a bed in a very secluded room, a priest comes in. It's a
Yeah.
very, like, this is all you can do, and you're therefore very limited, whereas nearly everything else you can be like, right, well, let's go wild, like we can go wherever we want with this, whereas that's very, no, you have to be here, and that's the end of it. If you're not doing that, it's not an exorcism film. Like,
yeah.
so what did you go, Brian? You went Exorcist, Aliens.
I went Jaws, Aliens, and the one that always keeps popping in my head, just because, like Mark was saying, I'm such a child of the '80s, but I'm a big fan of Poltergeist.
yeah,
That's a good one too. That's a pretty good
It's
one.
again another one for me that is just there. I understand the cultural importance that it brought. Obviously, it had that moment where they had real skeletons in it that caused a lot of issues.
didn't tell the
Right.
cast.
Yeah. Again, for me, a lot of possession movies, like The Conjuring was one I was surprised held me like it did.
Yeah.
Um,
I like The Conjuring. I agree with
Yeah.
that one.
I'd wonder, Brian, how early on into watching horror did you see the Poltergeist?
Oh boy.
Like, was it very early on? Because I find if you see something quite early on into a genre, it'll always hold a special place in your heart. No matter how, like, you could go back and watch it 10 years from now and be like, it's actually kind of shit.
Yeah.
But you'll never lose the love for it, because you'll be like, no, this was my gateway. This is what got me into a specific genre that I now love.
That's pretty much what it is. I saw it. So, I mean, I forget what year it came out. It was like
82.
Yeah. I mean, I was, and I saw it then. So yeah, it is one of the things that sticks.
Yeah, you're just always going to love it. You're going to remember it.
Yeah. I mean, it's like it's funny you say it. Like, when I was a kid, I used to watch Land of the Lost as a kid. I don't know if you ever seen that. It's
The dinosaurs.
Yes, the dinosaurs and the sleeve stacks and everything. And you go watch it now, and it's horrible.
I'd still quicker watch that than watch the Brendan Fraser one. Or the Will Ferrell one.
Will Ferrell, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was bad. Yeah. That was really bad.
That was what I grew up with. I would watch that all the time as a kid. So it's like, yeah, Land of the Lost, it's great. But yeah, I think that's definitely it. It's I saw it, when it came out as a 10-year-old. And it's like, oh man, this is terrifying.
I was about 11 or 12 when I watched the very first horror movie that I can really remember, with Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was one because my parents were like, you can't watch this. There's two movies that my parents told me I could not watch. Nightmare on Elm Street and The Exorcist.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I watched both of them within the space of a month. But Nightmare on Elm Street will always be my favorite horror movie.
Yeah. The funny thing was, I was teetering between Poltergeist, because Nightmare that is one of those things. Same thing. I saw that when I was young. It's like, it sticks, Freddy's always sticks in your head and stuff. So yeah, that's definitely high on the list.
I'll always say when people say to me, "What's the first scene that you remember from horror?" It's that one. Like, I know you see Freddy once or twice beforehand in the build-up where he's chasing Tina, but you know that scene when he comes in the alley and the arms go out.
The arms go, yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Fucking brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah, that's nightmare fuel right there. That is. Yeah.
1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. 3, 4, better lock the door. And 5, 6.
That was my ringtone in school from when for about 6 years. And if I could get it to go on this phone, I would, but it won't let me.
Oh.
But gents, what we normally do on the slab, we'll give the film a rating. We do it out of 5 slabs. Me, obviously, it's the same as the 5-star thing. Ted, do you want to give it a rating?
Yeah, I'd be happy enough to go quite high on this now. I'd probably put it at about 4 out of 5, to be honest. 1, it's a werewolf film, which is always going to put it at a good starting point for me, and then it has to, if it's bad, it'll obviously drop down. But like, you start at a higher point than other things because you're a werewolf film, and I don't get enough of them. The acting was done very well. The characters, I felt, as I said, were very relatable. Like, they're film nerds, film buffs, and they're all talking film to each other. And then big, practical effects werewolf. Love it.
The wolf was brilliant.
Yeah, quick start to the film, like brutal start, and then a kind of slowdown, which I liked. I loved the fact that we were really, really quick into it. Here's a shitload of kills, and not just like, oh, we'll just cut them up and bite them. No, like, let's rip this guy's head out of his body.
Predator style.
Yeah,
right.
like, I loved all of that.
Exactly,
like,
you caught that one too.
Yeah, like, here's all these little bits of like, just, okay, well, we'll just dismember all of these, and then it slows down, and you're like, okay, well, that was a bit weird, and then it ramps back up. I really liked that as well, and it, like, so yeah, 4 out of 5 for me.
Do you notice how Mark agreed that once I said it was Predator, he's like, oh, you caught that one. He copped on to how to do that one.
He's learned now, yeah. Once
Greg's picking all these movies.
There.
Yeah, of course, yeah, of course it was. Yeah.
You know what? This is my last podcast anyway, so it's all good. Whatever.
That one was definitely there. Yeah, you definitely meant that one. Yeah.
I like the improv. You just went, yeah. That was definitely it. Yeah. Hello, Greg. You caught that one. So as I said to you, we have a rating system that we do on our other show. I've watched 39 2023 movies. and
Okay.
I have Wolf Hollow at 16.
Okay.
Middle
All right.
middle of the
I'll take
pack.
it.
And as I said to you, was it perfect? No.
Yeah.
Was it enjoyable? Very. Will I watch it again? Absolutely.
Excellent.
And I'd put it on quicker than I'd put on most werewolf movies. Now, obviously, I put on Dog Soldiers more than I put on any other one, but that's
Oh,
for
I'm sure. I
a
wouldn't blame you. Yeah.
Yeah.
that's for a different conversation. For me, acting was good, camera work was good, sound was good. Um, if you put it on, you mightn't even say that it's an indie movie. You could just say that it's a sort of a lower rated Hollywood movie the way it was done.
Okay.
Um,
All right.
I enjoyed it. I did. Loved the movie quotes. I loved all the little nods to things. I'd be going 3.5, somewhere in and around there, 3.5, close to 4 maybe.
We'll
Very
definitely take
enjoyable.
that. Absolutely. Thank you so
Yeah,
much. We appreciate that.
That's
If
great.
very
there is a
enjoyable.
if there is a sequel, I want to see more of Steve being immortal though. I love the fact that at the end he grows those arms back. That is incredibly funny.
You may get your wish. You don't know
Yeah.
yet.
Was that?
So.
No, I gotta ask. Was that a quote or was that a nod towards the 1992 Buffy movie?
No, because nobody
No.
cares about 1992 Buffy film. The only Buffy anyone cares about is
Paul Rubens loses his arms in that movie and he still
but
gets
nobody
them back.
yeah, but nobody cares about when you talk Buffy. Nobody's talking about that fucking film. They're talking Sarah Michelle Gellar.
That movie got the TV show going. So
Yeah, well,
don't even give it.
Yeah,
Pay
it can.
pay tribute where tribute's due.
Yeah, it has its place in time. It got the series made, and then the series kicked its ass, and it was like, listen, Sarah Michelle Gellar is way better at being Buffy than you, and the series fucking storms the film out of it.
I did, but all I asked was it a
Cool.
nod to
There
that
you go.
movie.
Yeah.
But gents, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on tonight. As he says, the movie's out August 8th. Where can we find?
So it should be out everywhere. Wolf Hall will be out everywhere on video on demand. Any local cable providers locally in the United States. August 8th. I know we are actually in talks right now. We just had that email from our distributor. They're looking to land a UK distributor probably within the next month or so. So that should be hitting pretty soon as well.
Bear in mind, it's the 4th of August when we record this, so when this comes out, if there's any further updates, we will post it on the link below, as this doesn't go out live. Just
right.
sorry. Yeah, as it says, absolute pleasure to have you on. Welcome back anytime.
Thank you guys for having us. We appreciate it.
As it says, if there is any updates and you find anything else out, let us know, and we'll certainly pop it up for you. And we appreciate your chance to watch this before it came out and do an hour review with you.
Sounds great. Thank
Absolutely.
you. Enjoyed this.
Do you have anything else to drop in before we jump off?
Brian and I are already working on our next thing.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll fit the next podcast.
Yeah. So that
Wait, hold on. He's already trying to get himself on another podcast, and he hasn't even slipped me the brown envelope yet.
See, I'm learning. I learn quick.
But they might give us the film, Greg. So hold on.
So
that's what the brown envelope's supposed to be.
I'm gonna leave it at this. I'll let Brian fill in the rest. But there's a reason why he has the beard right now.
Well, the beard, but the beard's going to go away, and it's just going to be the mustache for what's to come for my characters. Yeah.
Well, I just thought you were trying to be. I just thought you were trying to be yourself, trying to order Stephen Lang off Wish.
No, I need to get rid of this, and all I'm going to have is the mustache, and then we'll.
It's got to be Ron Jeremy, lads.
Well, hey.
You're not far off. You're not far off.
I'm not
well,
sure.
the movie is called
anyway.
Brian, so you don't know.
Well, I'm assuming he's going to be Tom Selleck, so.
On those lines.
We'll come back with an update. Absolutely.
Charles Bronson.
Absolutely. But as I says, welcome back absolutely anytime. Make sure to check the lads out on Instagram and stuff on the Wolf Hollow official page for any updates as well, in case somehow we miss it, but we won't, because I don't miss things. Apart from almost trying to get this show 2 hours early, but that's a different story. But as for myself and Ted, make sure to check us out on Retrotainment Recast as well, where we recast movies of yesteryear with actors of today in a little game show manner. In which case, I am still the man. Whether I'm still the man at the time of this coming out is a different story, but I'm still the man.
Yeah, only because I keep getting cheated out of it, but
cheated out of it, me hole. You get slapped and you like it.
I do get slapped. Yeah, all these brown envelopes.
Great, it's 2 words in the English language.
Hang on, let's put.
Fault.
Hang on, we have a director here actually, so we'll just ask, right? You're recasting William Wallace, right?
Oh.
Okay, and the 2 choices that you've been given are Henry Cavill and Michael Fassbender. Who's your William
Michael
Wallace?
Fassbender from Centurion.
It doesn't matter where he's from. Like, that's who it is. It's Michael Fassbender or as William Wallace, or Henry Cavill as William Wallace.
I can't believe this was about 15, 20 episodes ago and he's still going on about it.
I would go Michael Fassbender, actually, to be honest with you.
He's not a fucking hoe. He's too small.
I would go with you.
Yeah. No, he's too fucking small. Look, William Wallace is a big fucking unit. Michael Fassbender, he's not battering anybody.
And I'm sure he shoots lightning bolts out of his ass too, right?
And laser beams out of his eyes. If you're gonna quote it right.
There you go.
But gents, I'll finish this the way I finish every single Friday night. In the words of the great George A. Romero, ladies and gentlemen, stay scared.